Secret Trails is a mode I very clearly cannot recommend playing, at least not the original version, because the gameplay of this creation is fully capable of causing serious psychological and physical damage to your health. There is also a very real possibility that the damage may turn out to be genetic and get passed down to your children, your grandchildren, and eventually your great-grandchildren. Assuming, of course, that stalker nerds like me ever managed to reproduce in the first place. Unfortunately for me, my life has already gone completely down the drain and nobody seems particularly sorry about it anyway. So we will continue our journey through this epilepsy simulator and the undisputed masterpiece of storytelling. Get comfortable, this is Secret Trails.
If you got a god, I'd start praying!
This time, without the dizziness, we finally make it to the swamps. From there, straight to the swamp doctor, a man who, judging by the situation, enjoys sleeping in the same bed with a cat, a dog and a bloodsucker, while two barely functional farmhands guard his sacred slumber. All of this under sting softly flowing from his radio. Truly fascinating what loneliness does to people. Naturally, we don't give a single fuck about any of this because we are here to find out what happened to my brother. The doctor, in response, delivers a brilliant and original conclusion. The whole story is shrouded in mystery and mysticism. I'd personally add schizophrenia to that list. Anyway, if you want to squeeze a couple more words out of him, we need to head deeper into the swamps and kill some unknown abomination. A giant chimpanzee-looking thing, or maybe something straight out of Metro, that also shits spiders. At this point, we really should be getting the hell out of here, but after the last emission, the zone reshuffled itself like a deck of cards, and the only way out leads back to that cursed forest, a path known only to the wanderers, whom we had almost forgotten about. At their checkpoint, we meet our old acquaintance, Greek. He's happy to show us the way, but this time, instead of 10 dog tails, he wants us to escort the local scientists and annihilate the local female population. Reasonable trade. In the forest, we spawn to the sounds of furious sex. Turns out a pack of cats attacked our forester, so now, on top of hard problems, the old man has to live with a torn asshole. By the way, we now need to get to the army warehouses, the path to which is supposedly known by some hunters on the other end of the map. And don't be surprised, guys, searching for secret trails and transitions makes up about 70% of the quests here. To some Disney-like music, we annoy yet another poor bastard with questions about my brother and also make a deal. They show us the way to the warehouses if we help thin out some boars nearby. We are immediately warned not to get too cocky because the mission requires stealth. Before the transition, our guide Zahar tells us his story about how he's also looking for some guy, an old friend of his, and that if we happen to find him, we should pass along a letter. I don't give a shit honestly, so we move on to the next location. We transition and spawn inside a boarded up house in a bloodsucker village, surrounded by a controller, poltergeists and, who would have guessed, bloodsuckers. But apparently the crowd of suckers couldn't wait for me, so they start fucking the controller instead. A horrifying fate even for a creature like that. So we grant everyone present this sweet piece of death and discover a group of defenders of democracy and cannabinoid values. Freedom. Freedom needs help storming the military base. Gladly done. Then they ask us to capture the barrier. Less gladly done. If you remember, in the previous episode, the combat system in this game looked like mutual one-shotting of absolutely everything. Obviously, playing like that is complete cringe, so I installed a weapon damage fix, and now, if before you had to put one bullet into any enemy, now it takes a couple dozen. That said, I still die from a single bullet. So after returning the original files back into place and collecting our reward, we are asked to find a certain lefty who for some reason is handing out with duty in a dark valley. To get there, we'll have to go through the bar and the path to it is unknown to anyone. Just imagine that for a second. So we head to a shady guy named Snitch, who also decided to put me to work and sent me back to the Freedom Base to look for some documents. After a laminated piece of newspaper is found, we are shown a secret trail, a white concrete road leading straight to the bar, and we are also told that he knows some captain who recently joined duty. Now we finally have real motivation to find these pest control fighters of the zone. Just be careful when transitioning to the bar, because simply walking in that direction is not enough. You absolutely have to stand right on this exact spot. Secret trails. What did you expect? At the bar, a surprise was waiting for us. It turns out that in this timeline, the bar is completely occupied by bandits who demand that you lower your weapon and pay for sausage. What the fuck? How did I manage to read passage as sausage? I decided to violate both conditions just to check whether these guys were joking or not, and it turns out they take their business very seriously. After supporting young entrepreneurs with my capital investment, we immediately head downstairs where we find an interesting poster. Now that's the kind of beast I'd hunt. Instead of the barman, we have Boro here, who tell us that we are already known all across the zone and that it would be a good idea for us to meet someone named Earl. At the same time, a mechanic named Potapov loads us with a quest to find blueprints for a minigun, which we completely ignore for now. Earl informed us that because of our sharp eyes, people call us werewolf.
What?
Information worthy of reflection. He also tells us that he, Dutch and Caesar, the Habsburg dynasty of the criminal world, shot down mercenary helicopters and now want to loot whatever is left of them, with our help of course. The first of those helicopters crashed not far from the bar in a wild and unexplored area filled with mutants. Yeah, truly wild. 25 Snorks and 20 Bloodsuckers turned out not to be the biggest obstacle on our path. The real problem was the weight limit, which literally wouldn't let me move. So after sacrificing half my inventory for reasons that are still unclear, for this gun and the super secret transition to the garbage, we head to the Dark Valley, where along the way we run into already hostile bandits and then save the last hope of humanity from the spreading zone from a bunch of thugs. Later, along with the general under some pleasant blues music, we tell him, just like we tell absolutely everyone else we meet, our entire story, including the fact that we are looking for my brother, who might be among duty's ranks. Voronin replies that there really is a stalker guide in their group called Captain. And so, finally hoping that our family will be reunited, we run to meet this man, who turns out to be Captain Sobolev. I am in no way claiming the title of an English philologist or even of a person whose mind is in proper working order and capable of clear and sober thinking, but if your mother, after giving birth to you, or at least after seeing the very first ultrasound and realizing that she was about to have a mustached 40-year-old boy, did not name you Captain, then Captain is not what you are called, it's your rank. Still, this is the guy one of the hunters asked us to find. We hand over the letter and in return he gives us a 5-kilogram radio to deliver to his friend. Much more convenient, obviously. He also tells us he's heard about my brother and that a little bird whispered something interesting. When my brother entered the sarcophagus, he wasn't alone. He was with Yuri Semetsky, now known as the Eternal Stalker. Death reports about him flood the channel constantly, yet he's still alive, and someone even saw him. If we find him, we'll find my brother. To do that, we should talk to Sidorich or the barman. Either way, our path now lies toward the cordon, the way to which we, of course, do not know. So General Voronin decides to use us to the fullest, like the last condom in his pocket. While his fighters are busy scouting the area in search of a transition to the cordon, we are tasked with clearing the surroundings of X-18 from mutants, then finding an abandoned stash at an abandoned factory and bring back everything we find. We run into a guy named Vane, who, in exchange for a guarantee of protection from duty, agrees to tell us where the stash is. For some unknown reason, we vouch for this suspicious random with our own life and go looking for the stash. The number of mutants here was completely off the charts, so I decided to test my ultra-cool super weapon personally designed by Gordon Freeman. According to the instructions, if you pull an artifact with the gravity gun and throw it into the ground, you can temporarily create an anomaly of the corresponding type at the spot. Power beyond comprehension, indeed.
In any case, after bringing the entire arsenal to the general, we finally find out, not without the help of secret data from the stash, that the transition to the cordon is literally right behind the fence next to us. Truly, secret trails. But first, since we are already here, we go down into X18, loot everything that moves and kill everything that's valuable. Or the other way around. On the cordon, we are greeted by Petrucha, who asks us to save S.T.A.L.K.E.R from the bandits and escort him to Wolf. On the way, a pack of dogs attack us, followed by a chimera and some kind of baboon gorilla thing. I honestly have no fucking idea what that even was. Relation neutral. I'd argue with that. By the way, yes, this is the same S.T.A.L.K.E.R we saved in Shadow of Chernobyl. Now all that's left is to escort him to the S.T.A.L.K.E.R camp, which sounds like a trivial task if it weren't for the fact that S.T.A.L.K.E.R is a complete asshole. Instead of running this short distance, he decides to take a leisurely walk across the fields and enjoy the scenery, nearly triggering the local pack of dogs. After 15 minutes of suffering, I finally snap and just run to Wolf and... oh, what a miracle, S.T.A.L.K.E.R simply teleports there. You mother... Wolf brings us up to speed. He and the rookies are planning to settle in the village. Not Rookie Village yet, but first they need to clear out the bandits. To do that, they'll need reinforcements, namely stalkers who are currently surrounded by mutants not far from us. And we need to run to their aid. And after the mutant pack in the amount of 0 units is destroyed, we move on to the final part of the plan.
Guys, help me out. I'm gonna get crushed real soon.
I feel you, bro. The barman, who is sitting here instead of Sidorich, tells us that in order to find Mahomet, who will help us locate my brother, we'll need to reach Sidorich in the Peacekeeper zone south of the cordon. Recently, some real shit has been going on there and communication has been lost. He also starts lecturing us about how the zone is not mystical at all, but entirely human-made, that there are plenty of laboratories around which we really should break into and retrieve documents from. Documents that, of course, grow back like mushrooms in every S.T.A.L.K.E.R game. Also, the barman knows a man named Varangian who used to act as a guide for the military in these laboratories, and we should talk to this guy somewhere on Agroprom. Once we get to Agroprom, the first thing we do is turn a pseudo-giant stuck in the bus into a juicy filet mignon. Then we find a certain sorcerer, next to whom, on the mattress, a guy is experiencing rave culture with his entire soul, under the angelic sound of Minehead's brand by Rammstein. This guy claims that for 1k rubles he can resurrect anyone your heart desires. We take note of that and move on to save some random stalkers from mutants. That said, those stalkers don't really care. They've already experienced this life, nothing scares them anymore. I get so carried away helping these gentlemen that I first witness one of them humping a chimera corpse, then help them clear mercenaries out of the Institute building, and eventually find Lefty. Naturally, he immediately loads me up with tasks, demanding that I find him a Groza, a scientific suit, and other bullshit. Otherwise, he's not going back to freedom. And honestly, fuck you, man, I'm not here to convince anyone. The underground is waiting. In the Agroprom underground, we finally find that Barry Gigachad, a guy who just stands there and offers every passerby to go through his trial circles. Why does he need this? Obviously there's some higher meaning behind it. Why do we need this? Because until we pass these trials, we are politely told to fuck off with our questions as far as possible. The rules of these trials are very simple. With a single knife and your bare ass, you have to run through the underground and kill every mutant inside. And yes, at first glance it may look like a conspiracy between the mutants and Varangian to exterminate idiots and then loot their corpses, but no, this is supposedly skill training under extreme zone conditions. By charging headfirst and stabbing the knife into the stupid skulls of zombies, we clear the first round, receive a medkit, and now it's time for the second one. This time we have to deal with Snorks, who constantly kept biting my heels, but even they didn't cause any serious problems. After that it gets even easier. Bloodsuckers, clear them on the first try. But the final round really made me suffer. As you can imagine, given the unique physical properties of my body, which spins me like a propeller from the slightest gust of wind, and the fact that these bastards run around in packs, completing this round with just a knife becomes absolutely impossible. I don't even have time to get close to them before I'm already being launched into orbit. In a fit of rage and despair, I noticed two companions of our friend, and an idea came to me. Why not just stab them and take their weapons? And honestly, it was a perfectly valid thought, especially considering that Varangian didn't really object to it. Maybe that was the real test, whether I could use everything at hand. But also it was a survival lesson for them. Don't make a poor bastard run around underground doing dumb trials. One way or another, through pain and suffering, after about 40 minutes of fucking around with mirrors, I finally managed to kill them all, grab the precious medkit, and now this jerk was ready to answer my questions. Turns out he was just a regular digger, crawling through underground tunnels and garbage heaps in search of artifacts, until the military grabbed him by the ass and forced him to guide them through laboratories, where they completely cleaned out all the documents. The commander of those soldiers, Major Yerofeyev, is sitting at a checkpoint on the cordon and hasn't been sober for months. Thank you for the priceless information. He returned all my inventory, give me a new gun, but decided not to give my armor back. Apparently, that's the payment for the killed companions. But honestly, we don't give a shit. We get one shot with armor or without it anyway. So we run back to the cordon wearing what our mother gave us, a sweater and jeans, try to jump over a fence and apparently trigger an emission by doing so. Okay, what have I done? Sitting in a bunker under the pleasant sounds of anomalous nature, we tell the barman what we've learned, and first and foremost, that Varangian is a serious man. The barman, in turn, comes up with a brilliant plan. We just need to attack the military checkpoint. Those bastards should have been declared war on a long time ago. Also, he'll generously give me 3 stalkers for support. They'll distract the enemy while I sneak up their asses and have a conversation with Yerofeyev. And honestly, the start wasn't bad at all. If only the ground under my feet hadn't exploded. Either way, we managed to talk to the Major. Naturally, he shoots himself from the incoming party and tells us that some information should still be left in X16. I promised not to kill him, then immediately shot him dead, and then run back to the barman, who gives us a path through the Peacekeeper checkpoint, and says that Sidorovich is already waiting for us. At the checkpoint, the first thing I do is trade my battered burial taking off a military corpse for a brand new SCAT-9, the art of barter in Eastern Europe. Handed over the pass and got the fuck out of there before the brave NATO soldier realized he'd been scammed. And here he is, our good old pig, Sidorovich. He's already generally aware of why I'm here, says he'll try to find out something about Mohammed, and in the meantime we need to do basically nothing. Just deliver a few bottles of brandy to General Smith. Although that basically nothing included rescuing a soldier from a controller's sex dungeon,
You're okay, you know that?
clearing a base of mutants, exterminating factory workers and their foremen. As a reward, we receive a very solid assault rifle and head back to the old bastard for further instructions. Mohammed should be somewhere in the dead city. To get there, of course, we need to ask the swamp doctor. To get to the swamps, we need to ask the scientists at Yantar. But first, we also need to find a path to Yantar, which means immediately finding a path from the bar to the wild territory. Do you even realize the scale of the absolute nonsense happening here? I have never missed fast travel this much in my life. When we return to the bar, instead of a greeting, Earl sent us to look for yet another member of the royal family, the prince. He was searching for the second crashed helicopter, got his ass kicked by mercenaries, and is now sitting somewhere in a bunker on radar. We need to find his weapon, which for some reason is not with him, bring it to him, get beaten up a couple of times by those sons of bitches, and then find the place where the helicopter documents should be. But that's not all, because now we also need to go to Yantar to see Caesar with a flash drive previously found in that same wild and untamed bar location, passing through the most secret passage to the wild territory, where I immediately get gangbanged by 2 controllers from both sides. And although being bacon in this precise sandwich gave me sensations I have never experienced before, I decided not to repeat the experiment. By outplaying 2 mega brains with my half brain, turning the wild territory into something at least somewhat domesticated, I returned to my usual activity, searching for a secret trail. And you won't believe it, a secret trail to Yantar was right here, exactly where it should be. But you can only see it if you walk strictly under a hill, 1 meter away from it. Don't cry, kids, this is called level design. Professor Dada, also known as Sakharov, unfortunately doesn't know how to help us overcome the psi radiation coming from Laboratory X16. Even the helmet prototype we received after escaping monolith control doesn't help much in its current configuration. How to change that configuration is unknown to everyone except one super specialist, a professor of bullshit sciences, so brilliant that the writers didn't even bother giving him a name. Here, he is simply called the Professor. The problem is, the professor has gone completely insane, ran off somewhere to radar, and took his notes with him. Notes that might contain the data we need. So we'll need to meet a guy named Swiblov near the entrance to X10 and find out what's going on. But before we head there, we need to finish our quest with Caesar, hand over the flash drives, run to the last documents in the final mystical location, crash to desktop a couple of times, and then repeat the entire journey through the wild territory, the bar, the warehouses, and the radar. At the transition to the bar, by the way, an mission catches up with me. I was about to quickly bribe the bandits for passage, as tradition dictates, and sprint to shelter, but the guys were so shocked by the incoming catastrophe that they completely forgot to collect tribute from me. They did, however, remember to shoot me for passing without pain. So I have no other choice but to wait out the mission in the wild territory, underground, in the company of anomalies and mutants. Once we finally get back to the bar, we had Earl everything Caesar gave us and demand information about the dead city at last. This ghoul sends us to Swiblov on radar as well, claiming that he definitely knows where the transition to the dead city is, since he's looking for his beloved, Karina. By the way, the sister of our good old Layla. So for once, everything lines up in a way that doesn't require me to run back and forth 10 times. When we arrive, we find several stalkers lying on the ground and one floating in the air. And that floating one turns out to be Swiblov himself.
And how the hell am I supposed to start a conversation?
He tells us that he's seen that crazy professor, the guy is completely unhinged, and that we should shoot him with a tranquilizer pistol, which of course we need to obtain from Kruglov at Yantar. So for once, everything lines up in a way that doesn't require me to run back and forth 10 times. We do the entire journey back again, spawn into an anomaly at the bar, thanks for not spawning me straight to a coffin, make it to Yantar, and of course, they won't just give us the pistol. First we need to deliver some junk to General Voronin, and along the way deal with a gang of marauders, with whom I had a separate story altogether.
И какого я сюда полез? Скачковал бы себе по-старому на районе и все. Стоп, мы подошли зона. Стоп, ты мной. Теперь оправдываться поздно. Посмотри на эти звезды на нас.
As you might have guessed, the situation is pretty much unwinnable. The moment I stick my head out, I get turned into Swiss cheese. I honestly don't know why they left me alive in the first place, but if this smells like sexual slavery, I'd rather die fighting. Or I can do this instead. After the game spins me around in the meat grinder, I have a couple of seconds before the enemies spawn. And even after they spawn, I still have about 6 seconds before they fully wake up and start killing me. That's more than enough. Using just a knife, I carve my way through the crop of enemies, grab their weapons from the ground and die. But there's an even smarter approach. We leave all our weapons and gear on the ground before entering the trap, trigger it, escape, and while the enemies are still figuring out what's happening, we are already there, picking up our gear and going to cut some meat. After that, we bring Voronin his little package, take the pistol from Kruglov, and once again run to this goddamn radar and the laboratory. We are warned that the professor should only be shot once, then he'll come down. 2 or more shots and the man completely loses it, and not even God himself will stop him. So we follow the instructions with surgical precision and try to talk to the poor bastard. Aside from incoherent nonsense, he also says boo 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 and hands us his diary with important information. But I wouldn't be me if I didn't check what effect a tranquilizer overdose has. A gunshot wound to the head. That's the effect. We take the diary to Sakharov, spawn into anomaly again. Receive the helmet, take a quest to clear zombies near X16 and... oh yeah, baby. Now we finally descend into the laboratory. Find a laptop neatly lying on the floor behind a panel, which absolutely had to be left there, I always do that myself, leave the complex and carry this treasure to Fang, who is about to be taken out by mercenaries. And honestly, they should have taken him out, because now he sends us to X18, where we find an entire squad of monolith fighters who happily part with their lives and leave behind a flash drive. We take it to Fang, finally wrapping up this entire laboratory saga. He does ask us to go to Pripyat next, but for once a sense of dignity awakens in Strelok, and he tells Fang to piss off. Although all this junk still has to be taken to the barman. Why I carried it to Fang in the first place remains a mystery. But the barman can wait, because now we finally need to get to the dead city and begin searching for the beautiful, no, scratch that, the hot, Karina. Using yet another secret trail, we enter the dead city, go to the good-looking Layla, who tells us that Karina should be somewhere in the forest, which is great because now we have an excuse to visit the forester again and kiss the old man on the cheek. After that we go to the hunters, finally give Zahara that fucking radio I've been carrying for half the game, and learn that Karina was recently seen with two grandmas living in a wagon not far from here. Shooting old women is not new for me, so we find the place and... Hello, you ugly old skank. The grannies turn out to be pimps. For just 3,000 rubles, they offer me the chance to entertain myself with the girl. Deal of the century, boys. But, as it turns out, they were controllers, and the moment I fall for the bait, I'm immediately sent to the desktop. Not falling for that again. After blowing the brains of those creatures, we start bringing Karina back to her senses. Jesus, man, can you stop? We're in a public place. By the way, you have a nice ass. Big interaction. I don't know which school kid wrote these dialogues, but I'm absolutely certain he was touching himself while doing it. Now we need to find the body of the guide who was with her and who carried the past to the swamps. We find him in a spider-filled cave and then begin our lone, silent journey. At the exit from the location, another controller catches up with us, clearly unwilling to lose his only source of income, and soon enough, we are back in the swamps. While I'm running to the doctor's house, Karina finds her love and decides she'll never leave this room again. The doctor asks us to retrieve a transmitter lying somewhere in the swamps. Turns out it's not that simple. Some transparent bastards scare the living shit out of me and then straight up send me to the desktop. Fighting enemies like that is clearly above my pay grade, so I just grab the junk, bring it back to the doctor and receive a flash drive in return. It's meant for a certain pathfinder who is supposed to open all the necessary transitions between locations for us permanently. We also receive a guide pseudodog, which is supposed to lead us out of here to the dead city. On the way, under this wonderful soundtrack, a pack of cats attacks us, clearly looking to settle a score with the dog. Good thing I was around. We sprint through all locations toward the barman. For fuck's sake! Hand him the lab data and finally move on to the grand master plan that he and Sidorovich have been cooking for a long time. Naturally, I'm the central part of this plan. Apparently, nothing in the zone gets done without Strelok sticking his nose into it. The plan is simple. We are kicking the bandits out of the bar. First, we run to General Voronin, hand him a secret letter, then head to the Peacekeeper territory and escort the barman to a meeting with Sidorovich. We witness the peak of Eastern European diplomacy, listen to the barman mutter to himself, grab another batch of intel for Voronin, and from Voronin to Sidorovich, who has already taken his canonical place on the cordon. The bandits have dug into the bar like fleas on a dog, so clearing them out requires highly coordinated strikes. Voronin takes his duty fighters and attacks from the north, but to operate effectively and not get lost among two pine trees, they need a detailed map of the bar. This is where Sidorovich comes in. He hires a group of mercenaries who already have a grudge against the bandits and attack from the south. And this is where I enter the game. After the mercenaries wipe out the entire southern checkpoint, I wipe out whatever remains of the mercenaries themselves, gain even more trust among the criminals, and take the bar maps from Borov under the pretense that I want to help them reinforce against future attacks. I deliver these maps to duty, and we unleash a total exterminatus on the local Gopnik population. The plan is solid, and most importantly, there is nothing unnecessary or overcomplicated in it, just like the cars in Pimp My Ride. After that, with elegant strides, we escort the general into his personal basement, and voila! The zone map finally snaps into place, exactly as we know it. But let's get back to our business. Monolith is stirring up some shit in the north. Mercenaries are going wild and looking for the Doctor, Fang, Ghost and others, and they urgently need my help. And I would help, really, I would. I love those guys. But there is one problem. I am an idiot. I can't get to the Doctor in the swamps because the transition to the Dead City behind me has closed, obviously, and the concrete road is too subtle and unreliable to trust. If you remember, we were supposed to give the flash drive to a Pathfinder who would permanently unlock all the necessary transitions for us. You can find this Pathfinder in the bar, but he only appears there after you convince Lefty to join Freedom, which we didn't do. Right now, I don't even have the option to hand him the items I found. But I'm not replaying this entire nonsense and recording a third video. So deep in the internet trenches and prehistoric forums, I found save files dated back to 2011, downloaded them, loaded the right one, and here I am. With an insane inventory, completed side quests, a minigun, Semensky suit, a bioradar, and all kinds of other junk. The very thought that I would have to find all of this myself makes me physically recoil. Under the Resident Evil soundtrack, we burst into the Dead City, mow down a horde of zombies with a minigun, and say goodbye to Layla. She and her people leave the zone forever. Then we head to the Swamp Doctor, who sadly can't leave the place because his knees ache when the weather changes. He asks us to find ingredients for medicine, specifically 3 poltergeist eyes, 3 burr arms, 3 cat tails, and an artifact. Arguing with a certified doctor about the healing properties of such potion would be bad manners, so we just hand him this pile of shit and run to Pripyat. In Pripyat, with a minigun that increasingly feels like a Soviet hand-cracked meat grinder, we mow down waves of mutants and mercenaries, find the Fersher, who says he hid a stash of premium crack without which it's impossible to reach the Monolith control center. While searching for this stuff, I somehow ended up on a familiar rooftop. And at this point, the game feels more like Doom than Stalker. After injecting the premium poison, we move toward the CNPP, slaughtering an army of mercenaries, an army of pseudo-giants, another army of mercenaries, and finally, inside, right next to the monolith itself, we find Yuri Semetsky. It's finally time to figure out what the hell is actually going on. When he and my brother entered the sarcophagus, they very quickly found the witch granter. Semensky wished for the zone to disappear, but in the end, the monolith just screwed him over, gave him a low-quality laser eye correction, and threw immortality on top as a bonus. So now, the poor bastard just wanders around the zone cosplaying Stevie Wonder. As for Captain, he was so deeply fascinated by the zone that he wished to dissolve into its embrace, which apparently is exactly what happened because he turned into some kind of artifact. I've always dreamed of having a pocket-sized brother. He also gives us the artifact Rose of Winds, which can, one time only, free the human mind from its shackles. Exactly what we need. We thank the Walking Ghoul and run to the control bunker. In these save files, our good old Solomon is still alive. He gives us a machine gun that for some reason cannot actually be used, and near the bunker entrance we find Pathfinder, who delivers some bad news. The entrance to the bunker is blocked. The good news, we can enter canonically through the sarcophagus. The even better news, on the way there we'll get to shred an army of monolith and an army of spiders. And here we are. Someone is already waiting for us. The Gods, that's what they call themselves. In reality, they are just half-insane scientists who have supposedly ascended in consciousness, taking the form of inflated green condoms and now consider themselves the puppeteers and masters of the zone. But, as it turns out, appearances are deceptive because they are actually controllers in sheep's clothing. They explain that Captain has long since become part of their power and that we are just as much a product of the zone as they are, and will join them too. We of course disagree. We ask to show us our brother and threaten to beat the living scheiße out of all of them. Our wish is granted and we are immediately thrown to our brother, who has taken the form of a very familiar obelisk. Suppressing our childhood trauma, the first thing we do is loot all the artifacts around us, and the second thing we do is start talking to the rock. As you can imagine, the conversation doesn't go very well, so we use Semetsky's artifact and ta-da! Standing before us is our twin brother, who says, "Good day, Stalker." Unfortunately, we don't get much time to talk because a massive mission is approaching and we need to get out of here. Apparently, I had some kind of single-use one-seat teleporter sitting in my backpack this entire time. Where it came from, I have no idea. Probably something we received during one of the quests I completely fucked up. So we teleport our brother somewhere far away, and we ourselves, under X-Files music and the screams of Pathfinder in our head, leave this place. Then we witness monolith troops with flamethrowers, in the best traditions of a Sonderkommando unit, roasting Solomon alive and slightly undercooking Pathfinder. The poor guy says that using teleporters we need to get the hell out of here to Pripyat, and with a drawn-out gives up the ghost. And for us, it becomes an obstacle course with death every 20 seconds. In the end, Strelok simply gets teleported to the monolith and starts losing his mind, and after that, logically speaking, the plot of Shadow of Chernobyl begins. If you made it all the way to the end of this mess, I'm proud of you. I really am. Even if you are stuck at some dead-end job you hate, or wasting your life in a college your parents are paying for, or your wife left you and took the kids because you can't even feed them, or if today, while taking a shower for the first time this week, you suddenly realized that the girl next door had been hitting on you the whole time, and you were just too dense to notice it, even then, I'm proud of you. And also, that means there's generally something wrong with you, and I respect that.